That's the second biggest monkey head I've ever seen.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee.
The definition of insanity.
Hello and welcome to episode 63 of PvA Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Luke Croft. Joining me as always, freelance gaming journalist Cody Mellekline. Cody, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Doing wonderful. Also joining us, the spookiest, scariest of skeletons, Larry Hunt.
You know that's right.
Dude, so you know that pumpkin mug that I bought? I have bought now the matching skeleton mug. And on the inside of it, hold on, I'll see if the camera if you guys can see this without spilling tea all over. It says spooky.
Spooky.
It's spooky.
Guys, we're nearing Halloween. How pumped are you?
Pretty pumped.
Do you do anything special for Halloween, Cody?
I mean, we always had parties when I was up in Boston still, but now Anastasia, my girlfriend, is super into Halloween, and apparently this area is really good for Halloween. There's a bunch of stuff going on, so we're gonna try to get in some spooks on Thursday.
Nice. Larry, you have children, so it's a festive time.
Yeah.
And I still maintain my tradition of just scaring the crap out of trick-or-treaters. It's my favorite. Luke helped me one year.
It was awesome.
So
what do you tell this story? What's going on here?
So I set up 3 chairs, right? And Luke, myself, and my wife all dressed like dummies, you know, loose-fitting clothing. You're not sure if it's a real person or not. And we each sat in a chair. And I put a sign up that was a lie. A lie. It said, one of these is a real person. Choose correctly and you won't get scared. But we were all real people. So no matter who you picked, you got scared. And sometimes once you calm down, the other 2 jumped up and hit you with the double scare.
That is awesome.
It was amazing.
We went to this local Halloween store. It's a town over, but we went to it on Saturday, and it's cool because it's a Halloween store, but it also has like this haunted house thing, like in the middle, really small haunted house kind of thing. But I don't know, the vibes were real cool, and the stuff was like hella cheap, way cheaper than I thought it would be. You know, we're talking like licensed stuff for mad cheap. There was a Diva Bunny Blaster, officially licensed, $15.
Oh.
You know, Avengers masks, officially licensed, like $10. So hella cheap. But I think it's because they try to raise a lot of money for charity, so I think they sell a lot of that stuff at cost. So,
do you guys have costumes picked out?
I have a jack-o'-lantern suit with a jack-o'-lantern head that I wear. So,
you're a big pumpkin.
And I have no reason. I was talking about this on the Nightly Rundown on Monday. I have no reason to dress up. I'm not going to any costume parties or anything. So I think what we're gonna do is next year we're gonna plan to have an adult soiree with costumes of some fashion. So, because I want to dress up, I love Halloween, and I want to celebrate with people.
Don't let it die.
Now, maybe with my friends here, or if I for some reason move as I would like to be by this time next year, with whoever my new friends are, maybe fly my old friends out. I'll be making that much money, Larry. We'll get you out there.
All right.
Hold me to that. This is PvA Radio. It's not that it has been.
Calling it quits already.
Until next time, remember,
that's about as much news as we have to cover.
True.
This is PvA Radio. We get together each and every week over here on twitch.tv/PvA Radio at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Each of us brings one of the biggest gaming news stories of the week to the table. Then we have an in-depth discussion about it. Consider it your collaborative audio feature article. And Cody, what do you want people to do with that?
We want them to make it into a custom Halloween costume. And then, of course, spam that emote in the chat.
That is correct. And if you can't catch these shenanigans live, you can find us the very next day over on youtube.com/PvA Radio or on podcast services everywhere, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. And if you're over there checking out the revolutionary podcast by Conan O'Brien, Luminary. All right, guys. No real housekeeping here at the top, so let's just jump right into it with what have you been playing? Cody, let's start with you. What have you been playing?
Continuing to play Apex, and as we were talking about before we started recording, a lot of games are doing fun Halloween stuff. So I dove into the Siege Halloween event, which is awesome. Takes advantage of everything that is great about that game. Do you know about this event? I know, Larry, you said you're familiar with it.
I do not.
Have you heard anything?
I read about it.
Perfect. It's 5-on-5 like the regular game. It's basically hide and go seek. So half of one team is a team of operators. They have all tools that allow them to detect people. So like one of the characters is a heartbeat sensor. So you can use that. You can track footsteps. And all you have as a weapon is a sledgehammer. The other team is trying to hide and not get caught. And there's a time limit. So they win if the time limit runs out, or if they kill the other team with traps that they can lay down, like bear traps, poisonous smoke. They can also turn invisible and kind of hide for a period of time. And so it's kind of it's like everything that you love about hide and go seek, but with massive sledgehammers and really dangerous traps. It's so fun. It's really got a real, it takes advantage of the like intense sound design of what Siege has normally, being able to listen and hear your opponents, but then turns it up to like intensity of 11 because it's all spooky. So I've been having a good time with that.
And you're right. So many games have jumped on the Halloween event bandwagon. I was going to talk about this, and then I wasn't, and now I am apparently. But even Anthem has a Halloween event.
Yeah, even Anthem.
And I highly recommend that the listeners go check out the Hard Times. It's a satire website, but they have a great write-up on the Halloween event about how Anthem rolled out this special event for their one remaining dedicated player, Kenny.
So, what's been the coolest event, Cody? Is it Rainbow Six for you?
I still really like Apex's, just because it reminds me of Halo's infection mode. I like that a lot. The only thing that I don't like is that you can't play with your friends, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah. Larry, how about you? What's been the coolest you've seen revealed? Not necessarily that you played.
Yeah, all I've played is Apex, but I've watched video from a lot of the events. I've read about a lot of the events, but Apex is just, I love it. It's what I've always wanted in it. Ever since Battle Royale became a thing, I've been like, give me zombies in a Battle Royale, and not just in one building, Call of Duty. I want them everywhere. So I've been loving this event.
Yeah. I think for me, it was the Hitman event. That trailer was so well done. And like the whole premise of you're breaking into this house to kidnap this guy and drag him to this like sacrificial altar for the occult or whatever. Like the trailer was so cool. We watched it twice during the nightly rundown on Monday.
Nice.
So yeah, that one looked really cool. And I think, what do you guys think it is? I'm making this a pseudo topic here at the top because I know we don't have a ton to talk about. What do you guys think makes? Because correct me if I'm wrong. We don't really see this in any other holiday. Like we'll see Christmas skins and stuff like that, but nobody's breaking out the Easter events or anything like that. What do you think it makes Halloween so appealing for developers to say we want to make an event around this? Is it just the popularity of it that's surging, or is it something like a creative license you're able to take?
I think that's a large part of it. It allows you to crank up kind of the weirdness to 11. If your game isn't weird to start with, it also is just an inherently mischievous and like playful holiday. So I think that lends itself to a lot of what people are able to do.
Yeah. And with dressing up in costumes being so core to the holiday, it just really lends itself to selling skins, to be honest.
Yep.
So much like the rest of Halloween, it's all about companies making money.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think there is a level of creative license you can take in Halloween and universes, like you said, Cody, that don't necessarily naturally lend themselves to that to start. But I just think it's cool seeing the breadth of games that are doing it now. I mean, Hitman's insane, and the cool thing about
shocked me.
The cool thing about Hitman is it's completely free. It's part of the starter pack, so anybody can go play it. But I talked about this Monday as well, but wanted to get your thoughts. Like for a game like Hitman, I think the goal in those things is, well, let's get people in here familiar with some of the gameplay in the hopes that they play the rest of our game. And I feel like with a game like Hitman, what they showed was so different than what that game actually is. Like, do you think there's any real chance that something like that can achieve what they're probably hoping it will in terms of engagement?
I think the mechanical base is still there. It's still like you still have to think about it the same way. Like it's basically solving a puzzle to a certain extent. And Hitman is already goofy and nuts as it is, so this isn't like totally outside of its wheelhouse. I don't think anyone I won't say anyone, but I don't think that mode is aimed at like newcomers. I think it's aimed at for fans of the game.
See, I thought its inclusion in the starter kit really made it something they were trying to appeal to newcomers with.
I don't know who's leaping on it for the Halloween thing. I like knowing how that game has developed. It has such a not strong player base, but a strong fan base that I think stuff like this is like catnip for the Hitman player base, and especially for Hitman 2 that didn't see the like continued engagement with it. I think this is a good way to bring people who were already played it or are still playing it back to it.
All right. Oh, sorry. Do you have a thought on that, Larry?
Nah, go ahead.
Cool. All right. What have you been playing?
There is only Apex. That's all I've been playing. I love this event. Like I've stayed up way too late, way too many nights over the past couple of weeks because I am enjoying it so much. And as it's gone on, it's just gotten even more fun for me. One thing that I didn't like at first that I am now glad for is anytime a zombie dies on the map, it pops a red skull up for everybody in that location. And anytime a human dies, it pops up an icon for a human player dying in that location for everybody. So you always know exactly when and where people and zombies are dying. And I didn't like that at first, but the more I thought about it, the more I was like, this map is so huge. If that wasn't happening, there would be no action. But the other thing is it really makes the gameplay more intense. It makes you have to really consider whether you want to take an engagement or not. Because the more kills you're getting, the more icons are popping up in your location on the map, and the more tempting it is for the zombies to drop where you're at. And so when you're forced to engage multiple zombies at once, you're like, crap, I'm done. They're all coming for me. But it's a blast. It's such an intense game. I'm going to be real sad when it's gone.
Yeah, I'm with you though, Cody. I'm a little disappointed in the fact that you can't play with friends. Like Apex was started as a game of, hey, squads aren't optional. You play in a squad. And so like Apex is not a game I fire up to play by myself. I know, Larry, that's different for you. You're willing to play by yourself, but
I'm willing to, but I'm with you on this. Like, I see the reasoning for not letting teams drop in. They didn't want people working together until the 10 are left that are working together, but that hasn't stopped anybody. There's been this really funny thing that's happened where in that game mode, someone might run up to you and start teabagging. And if you teabag back, then you guys are agreeing to work together because there's no way to communicate. So the only communication is the friendship teabag.
The friendly teabag.
And it's such a risky play because if you initiate the friend request, the other person has plenty of time to decide to just shoot you in the face instead.
It's a vulnerable position you're putting yourself in.
One Watson extended the friendship invite to me, then got me in a room, set up all of her fences so I couldn't get out, and then murdered me.
Did you get your revenge as a zombie?
Sooner or later.
Nice.
It took a while. Watsons are hard to get in that game.
All right. What have I been playing? All right, we're just gonna get into the shame. So I buckled and ended up getting Overwatch on the Switch, and we're just gonna breeze past all the implications of that.
Crossing the picket line.
He really
left.
Oh, okay, he just turned his camera off. Thanks for not actually leaving and breaking everything.
I thought about it, but I didn't do it.
I do want to talk about the game just on its merits, though, because I think we've talked about Blizzard ad nauseum. Ad nauseum? AD or AT? Ad nauseum. The game is not the ideal way to play Overwatch. If you have the option to play anywhere else, do it. But for the purposes look, I've played the game 1,500 hours on other platforms. Like, I know what Overwatch is, and I have the ability to play it on other platforms, literally every other platform. But to be able to just like sit in my living room while my wife is watching something on TV and play Overwatch, it's awesome. In game, I feel like it runs decently well. I mean, it's only 30 frames per second. It's like, I think it's only 720p. I don't even think it's 920p. Yeah. So, not like really technically impressive. But in game, I don't feel like I've really run into anything where it's too terribly game breaking. Now, loading into a game, and when it loads highlights or plays of the game, and like your characters don't load in, and the enemies are just like these orbs of light that float around. But I'm like, look, I'd rather them get that shit figured out later and the actual gameplay of it feel okay than vice versa. Like, oh man, the replays look great. So yeah, I don't know if I would recommend it, but if you have the itch to play Overwatch on the go, and we're going to talk about gaming on the go here in just a little bit, but I think it's a totally acceptable port. And then the NBA season started, so I'm back into 2K, and I don't do all of the like shitty monetized modes in 2K. I do my league and really sim like single player stuff. So I avoid a lot of the mess that is 2K that upsets a lot of people. I'm upset that it is in the game because it takes away from the modes that I like to play. But I don't have to necessarily deal with it firsthand. So yeah, not a ton of thoughts there. And even if I had a ton of thoughts, I don't think most of the people that listen to the show care about my takes on sports video games. So we'll just move on from there. All right, Larry.
Yes.
Did we determine we do have a follow-up, or we do not have a follow-up?
I thought we determined that we do not.
We do not have a follow-up. So we'll just continue moving on. As we said, we have talked about Blizzard in Hong Kong ad nauseum here. So we will have much to talk about here in a couple weeks when BlizzCon happens and all of the shit has hit the fan.
Can't wait to see all those Winnie the Pooh cosplays.
Can't wait to see all those people who paid to get in to protest. All right, well, let's move into our topics then. Cody, you're going to kick us off for the week. What is your topic for tonight?
My topic is about Fortnite, the game that I don't play but can't seem to stop talking about. And this was something. So I want to talk about bots in Fortnite, which seems to be a more pervasive issue than I think a lot of people thought it would be. It seems to be like the major kind of flashpoint for this chapter 2 of Fortnite. This was something that I was completely unaware of because I don't play Fortnite and I'm not really plugged into the community. And even before I read this article on Polygon by Patricia Hernandez, which has a great headline. The headline is "Bots are making Fortnite players question what's real," which is a pretty accurate representation of what's happening. But before I even read this, I've talked about my brother last week, and about pretty much the only game he plays is Fortnite. And the only time I ever play games with him is when I can drag him away to play Apex for a little bit. I asked him how he liked the changes in Fortnite Chapter 2. And he said, it's all right, but, it was a big but, bots are everywhere. And I'm like, how do you... Okay, bots are everywhere. That's interesting. How did you know? And he said, my friends and I noticed we were winning a lot more. And this wasn't something like he plays a lot. So he and his teammates are pretty good. And it's a new map. So I played it off like maybe it's just everybody's getting used to it at the same time. So maybe the playing field has been leveled a little bit. And I think that is true to a certain extent. But he wasn't the only one talking about this. And so, per this article from Patricia Hernandez over at Polygon, a lot of players started noticing that they were winning a lot more, and they started piecing together information sort of on a cork board, conspiracy theory kind of thing.
Pepe Sylvia style.
Exactly. But a lot of it wasn't totally unfounded. Epic had mentioned in the past that bots would be a more consistent thing at lower levels of play. This was prior to Chapter 2 launching, and players just started noticing weird behavior from other players who were not like dressed in the basic skin that you would assume a bot would be dressed in, but were dressed in like the fancy skins that you'd think someone playing for a long time would be playing.
Well, those bots play around the clock, Cody. They can unlock that battle pass quick.
I know they play 24/7. They don't have to rest. And I think one of the better comparisons that a player made was Carolyn Petit, who wrote a little blog essay. It's actually linked in the Polygon article. She wrote about how the experience of playing Fortnite Chapter 2 has become akin to playing a horror game in some ways. And this is the crux of why people are questioning what's real. I'm going to read a portion of her piece. I feel like some kind of paranormal investigator cataloging the eerie behavior of this insidious new life form. I cross the island now and I see single walls tossed up here and there, something the bots routinely do, but that's unusual for human players. Often a single wall in a structure will be destroyed, leaving a gaping hole where most players would have just used the door. Sometimes you're in a place where treasure chests have been looted, and you can just tell based on what's been picked up and what hasn't that whoever or whatever opened that chest wasn't human. This haunted feeling follows me everywhere in the game now. So this is more than just a minor inconvenience for people who are beginning to question what the concept of winning in Fortnite is, feeling robbed of their opportunity to win against other people. It's literally making people question the surroundings of the environment in Fortnite, which I think is super interesting. What was your take originally on this, and what do you think it says about where Fortnite is at this point in its cycle?
Well, like we said, everyone's getting into the horror Halloween event, and this is just Fortnite surprise. No, this is a feature and not a bug, right? Like,
yes, this is a feature.
I say that
to a certain extent.
Yeah, I say that in the more like proverbial way that people use it.
Yeah.
Because I think people are looking at this and they're like, "This is a problem. Like, there's too many bots in these games." But how old is your brother?
He's 21.
All right. No idea how old Carolyn Petit is, but judging by the quality of this writing, it's probably older than most of the Fortnite demographic. And this isn't me shitting on the Fortnite demographic, but it is the understanding of my nephew is 9 years old, and he only cares if he's winning. He's not paying attention to patterns and if people are acting appropriately. In his mind, anybody who gets dropped on his team that isn't good at the game is a bot. So for him, and for Fortnite, for Epic, the idea is if we can get people winning, if we can get people feeling good about their play, they're going to continue to play the game. And this isn't an Epic only kind of thing, you know? This is Call of Duty's mobile game does the same. Your early matches are populated by a lot of bots, and
PUBG did it.
PUBG's done.
Opic Nerve says, as someone who played another BR that was Bot City, Realm Royale, I felt it was pretty irritating myself. So Realm Royale did it as well.
Yeah. So, and if it's something you become aware of, it is a frustrating thing. But Epic is banking on the fact that most of their player base, especially in those lower rankings, aren't aware enough, and all they're going to think is, well, damn, I'm winning a whole lot. And there's probably some growth hacking, data driven stuff that says, hey, players who average X amount of kills put in X amount more time on your game or spend X amount more money than players. I think about nights where we get on Apex and we get rolled for 3 matches in a row and it's like, all right, well, fuck this, I'm out. Like, you know, but whereas nights where we come in and the first match we drop in and we each have 4, 5, 6 kills, like, oh, we're going to keep going for the rest of the night, you know? Yeah, it's a feature. It's not a bug in Epic's eyes, but the more people become aware of it, I think the more answerable they'll become to it.
Yeah. My initial reaction, that headline had me rolling. The bots have people questioning what is real. But then the story, like I would be irritated. And I'm someone that I enjoy challenging games, particularly in competitive games. Like I want to feel like I earned that win. And if I'm fighting a bunch of bots, I'm not going to feel like that. But I think you're right, Luke, that they're banking on the younger demographic not realizing this for sure.
And even people in the older demographic, you know, that, you know,
but there's a balance that has to be struck. And it seems like they have not struck that balance well. If it's being talked about, then it's too obvious for it to have been done well, I think.
Well, and real quick, to point out one of the tweets in this story from OMG, it's Ali A. It reads, so after doing some testing, it seems everyone's very first game of Fortnite Chapter 2 has 10 human players and 90 bots. That's fucking insane.
Yeah. Well, people noticed that it took literally no time to load in the first skirmish match of Chapter 2, which I think is a large part of, I mean, it makes sense. I think both your points are well taken. I think Patricia Hernandez's piece does a good job of pointing out the two sides of this. There are a lot of people who are tired of getting stomped in Fortnite because the skill gap is so wide at this point. And so I think, like you said, Luke, if you can get a chance to feel like you've actually accomplished something in a battle royale, when the reality of the game mode is that your chances of winning are not very high, I think it does feel good and it feels empowering in a game mode that often doesn't feel that way for people on the lower end of the skill spectrum. I think for people on the higher end of that, though, it can be frustrating because it forces you to question the validity of your accomplishment. Yeah. Which is, I think, the danger once people do realize what's happening, even if it's not happening at the rate that people are saying it's happening, that little piece, that little seed is planted in your mind, that seed of doubt that what if the victory royale you just got is not actually legit, quote unquote legit.
Another way to address that skill gap, and hear me out, I know this is a novel idea, would be a ranked mode.
Which they have, right?
Well, they do have it now?
Yeah, Fortnite has a tiered rank
system. Go ahead and make fun of me for how uninformed I am.
Yeah. Yeah, you're off the
Let's
islands.
pivot to Optic Nerve comment. Skynet.
I really wish Larry would have actually logged on. Oh gosh, don't do it. He's gonna break it. Yeah, Skynet. The thing that's gonna feel worse is when these 10 humans to 90 bot matches are being won consistently by the bots.
And once the bots have learned to that level of combat and the bot AI gets dumped into these dumb robots with guns these stupid scientists are making, we're all done.
Yeah,
it's over.
It's true.
But I think oh, go ahead.
One of the side effects of this is just a tangent, is that, as the article notes, people learn pretty quickly when there's a quote unquote bug how to make it work to their advantage. And so some people have started purposefully playing as a quote unquote bot, like exhibiting behavior people would traditionally associate with a bot and racking up kills that way. Because if you can you basically can fake it till you make it to a certain extent. Obviously that ceases to be the case after a while, but it's interesting. People do adapt and people do experiment even when something like this happens.
Maybe the most interesting Fortnite meta in the history of the game.
The bot meta.
But I think there is something to be said about the difficulty in balancing these kind of games, as opposed to a game like Overwatch or League or really any other competitive game. Because when you're balancing Overwatch, there's one winner, there's one loser. And I think it speaks to the team that works on Overwatch that pretty consistently you're your win rate's going to be around 50% season to season, but like, what is the acceptable win rate for a battle royale? Like, should I be winning 20% of the time? Does that make me feel successful? 10% of the time? Like, what is that number? And I just don't know if there's any consensus on what that should be. I'm sure Epic has a target that they try to achieve with their players, but I'd be interested to know what that is, because it's probably lower than you would want it to be. Like, Larry, what would you consider in Apex? You play a lot of battle royale. And you do too, Cody. For you, if I was to say, like, hey, what would a successful win rate for you be realistically in Apex, where you feel like, hey, I feel good about this? What would it be?
So the trick with balancing this, and I'm gonna get to your question in a roundabout way.
We're taking the long way.
We're taking the long way. The trick to balancing this is if the acceptable, like, there is a realistic ceiling on what an average acceptable win rate can be, because when you've got that many players dropping in, like, so what? I'm trying to think in Fortnite, do you have 100 people dropping in a match, or is that just PUBG?
No, 100 people. I think 100 people is the goal in Fortnite. So
okay, and it's squads of 3 or 4. 3. So you got like 99.
No, 4.
Right?
4.
Okay,
you can do
so
doubles
4.
and singles. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm trying to think of how many teams there are.
Listen to us boomers trying to think of how Fortnite works. So in a 100-person match of squads, it's 25 teams.
Thank you.
And now listen to us Bible college guys trying to do math.
So, gosh, realistically, like, you got 25 teams, like, it's got to be a single-digit percentage for it to be realistic. I feel like. Like, you can't be winning like 25% of your games. That's absurd.
Yeah, so
it's got to be under 10%.
Yeah, so if the idea is that if we all drop into a map, right, the same 25 squads drop into a map, we're gonna win what, like 3.5% of the time if everything is even. Like, that would be the goal. But that doesn't seem realistic either, right? Like, that doesn't seem like a realistic way to keep your player base engaged. Now, I don't know. I think my nephew, 9 years old, probably wins 1 out of every 300 games that he plays, and for some reason continues to play. Maybe the definition of success isn't a victory royale in these metrics. It's more, how many kills did you get in the game? Because I feel a lot better about a game of Apex where I got 6 kills and finished third than I do where I got 1 kill and finished first. Yeah,
your metric of success is different in these types of games.
And I think you even look at how Apex rewards points in the ranked game mode. Like, once half the teams are eliminated, you get a significant bump in points. Once you're down to top 10, significant bump. Down to top 5, significant bump. So, like, I think of it that way. Like, I feel good when I get down to a single digit number of teams left. I'm like, all right, we did pretty well that time. But I'm also with you. If it was just a match where it was a running simulator and I ran from the circle and didn't see anybody and walked into third place, like, I don't feel good about that. For me, it's about the excitement. It's the gameplay is what I enjoy. Like, I don't care as much about the win rate in that game as I do in something like Overwatch. But I think that's because I just understand, like, that's not what this game is, and it's not realistic for me to think everybody's going to win 25% of the time.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think this is the first major kind of, like, quote unquote controversy. I wouldn't even classify it that, but it's the first major talking point that's come out of this chapter 2 for Fortnite after the whole shebang with the black hole. And I think one thing I do want to address before we kind of sign off this topic is that I think it's talking about, like, if you know about this or not. Epic has not revealed patch notes for the first patch they released for chapter 2, which came out, I think, this week, which is odd for them. They usually they really release that to the public and are really transparent about that stuff. And they, oddly enough, have not released that, which has become another point of contention for a lot of hardcore Fortnite players. And so stuff like this becomes a little bit more complicated when players don't feel like the company is being transparent with them, and that seed of doubt grows a little bit more in their head, I'd say.
See, and that combined with what we've been talking about this whole topic makes me really worried about what Fortnite believes as far as their competitive scene goes. I mean, they've taken a lot of steps to try to legitimize themselves as an esport. You know, the Fortnite World Cup was huge, hiring Nate Nanzer away from Blizzard to head up their esports division. But like you said, delegitimizing success in the game through bots in the game undercuts your competitive scene. Not releasing patch notes that competitive players rely on to determine what the newest meta is, what the best loadouts to have are, undercuts your competitive scene. I'm wondering if Epic is realizing, like, the more we press into the competitive scene of this, the more we're going to lose interest from the casual fan, and that they've kind of reached maybe a fork in the road.
I think that is the case.
And that's a struggle common to every game, right? The competitive level players play the game so differently from the common player in everything. You think about Halo, the MLG rules of Halo are completely different from regular Halo. And I could dominate people in regular Halo and get rolled in MLG style gameplay. Thinking about Overwatch, and the common player tries to roll the same comps as competitive players, but they just don't have the coordination, the mechanical skill to pull them off in the same way. So that's a common struggle.
But I think the scale of it is different when you're literally the most popular game in the world, and you're the zeitgeist-inducing game. I just think the scale of it is so much, like, obviously in any game, the top-tier competitive level talent is going to be just the tip of the iceberg in terms of your player base. But when that player base is the size of fucking Mount Everest, you do risk, like, that fork in the road between pursuing competitive play and still including your casual, quote unquote casual, as much as a casual Fortnite player is. That player base becomes a lot, like, broader of a fork in the road, I think. So it's going to be an interesting challenge for them moving forward.
Yeah. I think we can probably all agree that they didn't quite nail it this time.
No.
Well, and this isn't it. I mean, right before they reset the world, they had a big controversy with the mechs, and the reason the mechs were in the game was for the same exact reason the bots are, because the mechs evened some competitive playing field where it allowed lower level players to feel like they were being successful in the game, when in reality they were just taking advantage of an overpowered mechanic.
Yeah.
But there is something to be said about the struggle in keeping parity between the competitive product and the casual product. I mean, Overwatch has walked that line with the Overwatch League, I think, pretty finely. In that role lock was something that they introduced mostly for the casual, but in order to keep the product similar, they added it as well into the professional scene. And so, and I'm sure there's other examples of that in esports, but that's just what I'm most familiar with. I think that Fortnite's just going to have to figure out, what does it look like for us to create a game that is competitive but doesn't look totally different than what people are experiencing when they sit down at their console at home. All right, well, let's put a button on that one and move on to Larry. What is your topic for today?
All right, so I'm looking at an article from IGN. Fallout 76 now has a 100-a-year subscription service called Fallout First. And essentially, Fallout 76, a game that I enjoy and no one else on this podcast really does.
Or Planet. I'm just kidding.
Fallout, a game that we've talked about many controversies from. I haven't seen any feedback to this yet, but I imagine that there's going to be some backlash to this story.
Oh, you're talking at large?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I just today is a heavy work day. I saw this article. I read this article. I haven't seen any commentary on this article, but I can't imagine this going over well.
It's not. We'll just put it that way.
All right, like a lead balloon. So Fallout's having some more Fallout, but Fallout 76 has revealed a new subscription service, Fallout First, which allows players to play alone in private worlds, among other things. So this service, you can either pay $12.99 a month or $99.99 a year in US dollars. And that membership will get you private worlds for yourself and up to 7 friends, a scrap box with unlimited storage for crafting materials, a survival tent that acts as a placeable fast travel point, 1,650 atoms a month for the game's shop, and an exclusive Ranger armor outfit and unique icons and emotes. So where to start? First off, let's just I'm just going to kind of break down the things that it offers. Private worlds, that's something a lot of people have asked for. They want to be able to play the game solo, or they want to be able to play the game without the risk of people they don't want involved. They just want them and their friends. So that's a desire that people have. You've got all this extra stuff for the cosmetic stuff. You get 1,650 atoms a month. That's a pretty big deal. Exclusive armor, exclusive emotes and icons, like all of that stuff. Like, I'm okay with all of that in a subscription service of some sort. Whatever. None of that's game changing. The private worlds, like, you may have an issue with that, but even Minecraft, like, you have to pay to have like never mind.
Yeah, you do. You have to pay for your persistent world.
But this isn't persistent. This only functions as long as the person is online.
See, that changes the whole conversation then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that I started to make that point and then realized that it is not the same thing. But the thing that really bothers me is having a scrap box with unlimited storage for crafting materials. That dances on the line of pay to win, in terms of, it's a big deal to be able to just have as much of that stuff as you want without needing to worry about it.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Educate me here a little, Larry. The scrap box is not something that only exists for you in your private world. This is something that carries into the main game.
I'm pretty sure. I don't see any indication that it's only in the private world. And the survival tent that acts as a placeable fast travel point. That's a pretty big deal too, because you have to spend caps to travel to specific locations. And so those are two things that will actually affect the gameplay itself. And that bothers me. So that's essentially what this offers. Some stuff that makes sense, some stuff that I don't think makes sense. And then once you move from that into the price point, $99.99 for a year or $12.99 a month, that is freaking steep, my dudes. So why? That's my question. What is the thought here? What's your reaction to this? And can you help me understand why Bethesda thinks this is a move that makes sense? Because I'm not seeing it.
I think Fallout is currently having to supplement other projects for Bethesda.
Mm-hmm.
I think commercially, the latest releases from Bethesda have been underwhelming. When we're talking Wolfenstein, the last couple Wolfensteins, we're talking when we're talking Rage 2. I think they're having to find a way to use Fallout to replenish the war chest that helps them to make those other games. And so this is the way that they're attempting to do that. Now, whether that's going to be an effective way of doing it is another story entirely. But I think that they must see that they have an engaged player base that they can continue to tap into. But I don't know. I just think like $12 is steep, especially in a world that's like been dominated by pretty advantageous subscription services. When we're talking Xbox games, Xbox Game Pass, when we're talking Apple Arcade, we're talking, Ubisoft's Uplay Plus, like subscription services where you're paying less than this or around this same price for far, 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 far more content at a much, much higher quality than Fallout 76. I don't see how the numbers line up to where going into that boardroom, somebody was like, yeah, this sounds like a really financially viable option.
Yeah, I think this is, I agree totally. I think this is a way to kind of recoup a lot of the cost of a game and a series of games that have proved less than quote unquote successful in their eyes. Tapping into an engaged player base is probably a mild way to put it. Capitalizing on an engaged player base might be a better way to say it. I mean, obviously there's still a section of the Fallout player base that is super invested in this game. It's small, and I think they're hoping that segment of the player base will be able to buoy the rest of it. Jason Schreier astutely pointed out that for Game Pass, which, correct me if I'm wrong, Luke, is $15.99 a month if you get the package deal, and $9.99 if you just take the normal one.
Yeah, and so the $15.99 includes Xbox, PC, and Xbox Live Gold.
So you're getting services across 2 platforms. You're getting connectivity, and you're getting a bunch of games. But the point Schreier made was that on Game Pass, you can currently pay less or pay more and get more value. But you can get Fallout New Vegas, and come Friday, get the Outer Worlds, which is essentially Fallout in space. So I think most people are going to focus on the price here, but I think just the value for that price, at least me as someone who's outside of playing the game, does not seem significant enough. Granted, I guess if you've sunk as much time as some of these people have into Fallout, you're willing to shell out that money, which in which case, fine. Which is what they're banking on.
Yeah, that's the aim. And Optic Nerve says player base is also a stretch, which is true. I mean, I'm sure there's still an engaged player base, but that engaged player base are the ones that are going to be willing to spend money.
They're playing to their base.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that Optic Nerve comment as well, because the point he's making is right, that the base is not large, but the base of Fallout is super dedicated to that game. Like, those people are passionate. I still love just hopping on and reading the crazy stories of the shenanigans that folks get up to in that world. But I still I'm still going to be surprised if even that dedicated player base is going to be pumped for this service at this price point. And I may be wrong. They may have internal metrics that are showing, oh man, the people that are still here are willing to shell out. It may be nothing but whales left in that game. But I don't know. This just feels like, I know it's shocking, Bethesda making a poor step with Fallout 76, but I feel like that may be what's happening here.
Well, and here's my concern is that the things they announced that were going to be in this service are things that it looks like people among the fan base have been asking for, and then talking about expanding on these features in the future. If this is just going to become the place where they dump in things that would otherwise, like in regular games, would just be added within patches, like, hey, our patches are going to make sure the game's stable, but for all additional features we're adding to Fallout 76, you're going to have to be a member in order to take advantage of this. And that would be my concern.
Yeah,
I do question the decision to take features that people have been clamoring for, especially the private worlds. I know people were asking for that even before the game came out,
because people wanted to what's the word? They wanted to role play.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think taking that and shutting it behind a paywall is kind of unfortunate. I just think the move to switch revenue models halfway through the game is odd. I guess you could liken it to if World of Warcraft was a $60 title at launch and then transitioned to being a subscription model. Your understanding of the game is one, and your investment in it is one thing, and then you have to radically shift that if you want to continue to engage in it at the level you want to.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Elder Scrolls Online started off as you pay for the game and you had to pay for a subscription service, but they did wind up dropping that subscription fee, did they not?
And pretty quickly as well.
Yeah. So that demonstrates that at least back then this was not a sustainable model. And I'm pretty sure their subscription fee was significantly lower than this. And that was for the whole game. This is for a few key features, which, as you pointed out, Cody, may become even more key here in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, man. That game's got to be. That game's it's just had an uphill fight from launch, and they've done so much to turn it around that I was really disappointed to see this.
Optic Nerve says, I could be wrong here, but didn't GTA 5 give you the option to play in a private world like from launch? I'm not sure exactly when private worlds were added. There's an article from 2015 about how to create private sessions, which I think is probably around when GTA Online launched. So if it wasn't right at launch, it was likely near launch. And it seems to be a totally free feature as well.
I think that GTA 5 came out in 2013.
Well, the GTA 5 came out in 2013, but remember,
and then online came out
took
like a year later.
It took forever.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember when it came out. But yeah, the point being that they added the feature in. But I think it's a totally different monetization model as well, shark cards. It's also a totally different size of the player base. And the idea is if we give private worlds, they're likely going to spend more money on these microtransactions. So I think the financials kind of work kind of differently there, but I get the comparison. And I think, like, not even comparing the value in what's being offered here at $100 for a year, not even comparing it to Xbox Game Pass or any of these additional services, I still just don't see the value in the package itself.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's just because I'm not a Fallout player, but, you know, the private worlds makes up what I would think would be like 85% of the value in this. The inventory thing, another 5%, and then everything else, the other 10% probably.
Yeah. It's, as someone who loves Fallout, the unlimited scrap storage, like that's really important to me. The private worlds, like that's neat. It's not something that appeals to me, but I understand why people want it. But the rest of it, like atoms and exclusive cosmetics, like, you know, I've been on this in other games as well. Just give me the option to buy what I want outright. Mm-hmm. And so I do not see the value on its own, not even comparatively, like you're saying.
Who's had the bigger fall from grace in terms of goodwill from fans? And this is going to sound like a meme of a question, but I mean it quite seriously. Is it Bethesda with the Fallout franchise, or has it been BioWare from Mass Effect Andromeda to Anthem?
I feel like whether it's fair or not, I think that BioWare is kind of a little off the hook for Anthem. I think a lot of people put the blame elsewhere on that. But I think Bethesda's had the bigger fall from grace because of the mess that was Fallout, but also just the meme of Skyrim on this, Skyrim on that, Skyrim, and I don't know. Like you said, Wolfenstein, that's kind of that was not as successful as they wanted to be, and it looked like a great game. But outside of Wolfenstein, like, what's Bethesda done that was really great in recent years? I don't know.
Wolfenstein 2. That was the last one. That was in 2017.
Yeah.
I think BioWare's it's definitely been a decline. But I feel like, there were with Anthem, there were a lot of factors at play there, as we learned. But if you want to call it a fall from grace, I feel like theirs was more steady, like from Andromeda to Anthem. And then, granted, people are still really excited for Dragon Age, which they announced, and they'll be showing off more of. So people are still psyched about their stuff. But I feel like the fall was so precipitous for Bethesda.
Yeah. Bottom fell out pretty instantly.
It was just so, it was magnetic to watch in a way, but
and it was one punch after the other. Yeah. Just like one fiasco after another.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I think the interesting thing with BioWare's situation, I know this topic is about BioWare, but is that it happened so slowly, but then it's one of those, like, you look behind you and you see what was kind of left in its wake, but you didn't notice it while you were walking. In that you saw Andromeda, you saw Anthem, and now we're looking back and we're like, well, is BioWare even who they were during the, like, height of Mass Effect, during Dragon Age Inquisition? Like, what of that studio was even left to be working on these games, because some key people have left BioWare in those years as well. And so I think there's concern about their ability to get it back. Whereas with Bethesda, it seems like a total cultural shift in the way that they approach these mega franchises of theirs, and has me worried about the ways that they're going to continue to try to take advantage of the fan bases of, Elder Scrolls, when Elder Scrolls 6 comes, whenever the next, mainline Fallout game is set to release. Like, are they learning the question to me was, are they learning valuable lessons in these missteps? And this subscription service tells me they haven't.
Yeah. I got a little optimistic, at E3. We had our predictions, and like none of us really expected Todd Howard to come out and have any humility. And then he did, and I was like, well, maybe we're hitting a turning point. But then we turn around and do this, and I'm like, okay, never mind. Yeah. And that's the issue with a lot of the Fallout issues. Like the game had some issues at launch, and that would be one thing, like bugs and kind of sort of new territory for them. But that wasn't the brunt of the complaints. The brunt of the complaints were predatory behaviors and overpromising and under-delivering, just taking advantage of a base of fans that were really passionate about your company and your products. And for me personally, I love Bethesda. I've played a lot of their games over the years. But everything moving forward for a long time, I'm going to approach with some apprehension. I won't be picking anything up at launch from them for a long time.
And it also surfaced a lot of consistent issues with Bethesda games to begin with as well, that people often overlook because of the good things about them as a studio. Talking about like the performance of their games, the shittiness of their engine. So
good thing there's a new Fallout game coming out on Friday. It's called The Outer World.
People are loving it. Lots of high praise.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Anything else on that, Larry?
That's all I got.
Hey, how much real world money does 1,600 atoms translate to? Is that $16?
I'll look that up real fast
because I'm curious. I know it's not $16. It can't be. You're going to pay $12 for $16 worth of. At that point, I guess it is. It is worth it. Probably like $3.
Yeah. Let's see. So for 1,000 atoms plus 100 bonus, you spend $10. So it actually is about $1 for 100 atoms.
Oh. Well, that's interesting. Okay. Maybe that may change my perception a little bit of it, but I think the audacity of asking somebody to subscribe to your game for new features, regardless of that, I don't think it changes a lot. All right, well, let's move on to my topic. I've got a little bit of something different here. There wasn't a ton of news to talk about this week. I thought about talking about Call of Duty and moving to the Battle Pass, but who the fuck cares? Like, we all kind of expected a move like that. I want to talk about an article. This is published on DualShocker from Ben Bayless, but it is about a study from a UK-based comparison group called Compare the Market. And they ran a study looking at who takes their video game consoles with them on holiday, which in real English is vacation. So the company, well known for its cute meerkat mascots, which I'll have to look up because it's a weird call out to make in an article. It says, have found that 29% of people aged 18 to 34 would rather take their consoles on holiday rather than, experiencing the sights and sounds of a new area. And I feel personally attacked by that injection that he made. The article continues. The statistics do drop as the age range increases, though, with only 16% of 35 to 44-year-olds taking their video game console with them, 3% of 45 to 54-year-olds, 0% of 55 to 64-year-olds, and then 1% of people 65 and older taking their consoles with them. So some rad grandpa with a belly tattoo taking his Nintendo Switch with him.
Or everybody in your life is just dying, so you gotta,
it's all I
fill
got.
out something.
Jesus, Cody. I can't vacation
Just
with
trying to
my
keep it
friends
real, man.
anymore.
All my friends are dead.
Oh, so that got me thinking about kind of our gaming habits, and I think even more specifically here at the top, like, where would you fall in this? Are you in the 29% of people our age who take your console with you when you travel, or do you belong in the 71% who apparently, care about more in life than video games?
So I almost never take mine with me on vacations just because, I have a wife, I have 2 children, and I know that when I go on vacation with them, I'm never going to get a chance to actually play my video game. But that's less a pointing to me not wanting to play games on vacation and more of a pointing out how little my vacations are actually vacations doing the things that I enjoy.
Optic Nerve says he feels like that's going to be him at 65 taking his or her console.
Yes. I take my Switch not to play on vacation, but to play in the airport while I'm waiting to get to the destination. I almost never bring my Xbox or my PlayStation. The only time I would do that is like this holiday that I'm going to be taking for Christmas, when I'll be back home with the TV and my brother will have his console, so we'll be playing together. That's almost the only time I ever take it. Otherwise, it's nice to be able to enjoy wherever you are, like actually engage with it and engage with the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Luke, who doesn't like to leave the house.
Oh gosh, my ideal vacation is just, hey, let's go, spend money on like a cabin for a week and never leave the cabin I don't care where it is. I just don't want to be in my house. I want to eat good food, and I just want to lock myself away from the world. I am a homebody at heart. I am not a sightseer. I don't like doing touristy shit when I go places.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my style. I like finding little local places to try to eat, but so yeah, I take my Switch with me. When I had my Vita, I took my Vita with me everywhere. I have taken we took a trip to Tennessee as a family one summer, and I took my Xbox 360 with me. And my family was like, hey, we're going to the aquarium. Luke, you want to go? I'm like, you guys go ahead. I'm on my 3rd season of NCAA football. And I just played my Xbox. And it's cool. I have a very understanding family who's like, hey, Luke doesn't get a ton of time off. When he gets his time off, he wants to spend it in a certain way. And we're not going to make him feel bad about wanting him to spend it in that way. So I don't feel like any of you guys have any weird stories about places that you've taken your consoles then, do you? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I mean, I feel like the bathroom is no longer a weird place to play your Switch.
No, people playing games on their phone all the time. I'm always doing crosswords on the toilet on my phone. So
I'm trying to think. I brought my Switch to Greece, and I was playing it on the what's it called? In Athens, the giant temple to Zeus. Is it the Parthenon?
Yeah.
I played it on the Parthenon.
Nice.
Because I just felt like that would be a great way to spend my time.
It sounds like a good photo op.
Oh yeah, it was great.
How about you, Larry? I know you take yours like when you go back home. You'll take your Xbox with you from time to time.
Yeah, sometimes. And I don't think there's anything that qualifies as a weird place I've taken it. Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I've got stories to regale you with here at the top then. So
Real quick, Optic Nerve said, I spent a good amount of time this past summer playing Pokemon Go through Europe. So, like, I get it.
See, that's the perfect combination of traveling and gaming. So you're still getting to go to sites. I'm sure, the Pokestops and gyms are set up at pretty popular places in whatever city you're at. And it's also a cool way to connect with the local community, because I'm sure there's a lot of Larry just lost himself over here, and I'm not sure.
Sorry. In our Discord, Beal for Real posted a little update that somebody got FalloutFirst.com before Bethesda.
Oh, no.
And I don't know that we can read any of that on the show, but if you're interested, you can go check that out.
Is it Fallout First with like spelled out?
Yeah. FalloutFirst.com. It's pretty it's pretty intense.
Okay, I'm not gonna put it up on screen, but that's hilarious to me. It's like the people who bought JoeBiden.com before Joe Biden did. And yeah. Anyway,
sorry.
So I was conditioned from a very young age to take my consoles with me everywhere, because my family, I'm one of 5 kids. We had this giant ass conversion van that we would pile up in, and it had this hutch right behind the driver and passenger seat, where there was a like 13-inch tube TV tucked into it. And so we would take our Sega Genesis with us, and plug it into a power inverter, and we played Mortal Kombat on 8-hour drives up to Ohio, like when I was 6 years old. So
you were in 1995, living in 2019.
Dude, I was chilling with my parents the other week, and we were just kind of talking about, like, my dad has always been like a tech guy. He loves gadgets and stuff, and so like we had Sega Channel as a kid, where you would go to the cable company, you'd get the special cartridge, plug in a coax, and they deliver like 8 new games to you every month that you could play. It was Xbox Game Pass 20 years before Xbox Game Pass. Like, so we were well ahead of the curve on a lot of this shit. And but I think the funniest place I've taken my console with me was on my honeymoon. So my wife and I got married. I took my Vita with me, and she is like, she can sleep till noon, and she's still like that. But I am not. I am up at 7:30 every single day, pretty much. I rarely, if ever, sleep in. So I'd let her sleep. I'd go out on the balcony, listen to the ocean, and just play my Vita while on my honeymoon. So yeah, I am maybe a little addicted to on-the-go gaming, and the Switch is only going to make it worse.
Now that I've thought about it, I have one strange example. So I grew up in the charismatic church, which is the loud, boisterous branch of Christianity. and at that time I had a Game Boy Color, and church services in that branch can go for 3-4 hours sometimes. And so sometimes I'd play my Game Boy Color in church, which was really offensive to some of the older people, but at least I wasn't disrupting anything.
Yeah.
Optic Nerve says, the most jarring thing I can really think of is catching a Mr. Mime outside of the house where Beethoven was born. I peaked at that moment.
That was a pretty peak moment.
But this also got me thinking, just we game a lot, and I think we've talked in the past about like habits in game. I want to talk about habits outside of games while we're gaming. Did you guys have an opportunity to think of, like, what are some of your weird gaming quirks?
Sorry, this is another one where I was kind of drawing a blank. I sit there, I play my game. I don't know if
Did you have any in mind specifically, Luke, that you have?
I mean, I think, I've definitely the traveling thing for me. Like, I take my shit everywhere with me. I play it everywhere. And it drives, I think it drives my father-in-law crazy, because I'll just sit in on the couch in their living room and just play on my Switch while he's got the TV at 65 volume. But I think about like, oh man, I'd given this some thought, and now I can't recall what I had. I should have wrote it down. Well, shit. I'm really disappointed that you guys couldn't think of anything.
Well, no, I have some stuff.
Okay, yeah, just throw it out. Even if it's in-game stuff that you tend to do.
I am incapable of binge playing games. this is not, I guess it's not so much a behavior as something that I can't do. I can't like whip through. I can't play. I know like all my friends, they have talked about playing games for like when a new game comes out and playing it like nonstop for like 10 hours. It's something I literally can't do. And it's something I can't do for any form of media because I prefer to consume media just steadily as opposed to binging it because I feel like I get less out of it if I just gobble it up in one sitting. I like to sit back and reflect on it. So that's something that I've never been able to do, probably to my detriment, because it means that I end up like I was still playing The Witcher when everybody had moved on from it because I took my sweet time. But another one that this is a behavior that I tried to do. I tried to play an open world game according to the day-night cycle set in the game. So I would only play it when the sun was out in game, and then I would only play it at night when it was nighttime in the game, and it made my sessions very short, but also very immersive.
So you wouldn't like go to bed in the game to make the night go faster? You would just stop playing? Once
the sun went down, I just save and turn it off. I did this with speaking of Bethesda, I did it with I think Fallout 3 or Skyrim. I can't remember which one. I think it might have been Skyrim because it's a lot more noticeable in that game. But it was I did it for a little while and then realized it's untenable because the day-night cycle is not exactly realistic, but
yeah.
It was just a fun quirky way to engage with that game.
Yeah. I don't know how this is probably not that weird, but I used to immediately binge through the entire campaign of a Halo game as soon as it came out. So midnight, no matter how many hours I had to stay awake, like I'm playing this game. And now I'm just too old to stay up all night. It just hurts.
Yeah. I'm getting sick just thinking about it.
Yeah. Sometimes when I feel really like I've been entirely too lazy, I'll punish myself in competitive games. So lately the way it's been is however many people are still alive at the end of an Apex game when I die is how many push-ups I have to do before the next match.
Nice.
Okay, that's a little weird.
Try to stay fit and also
there's streamers that do that too, where they're like, oh, every time I die in Overwatch, I have to do 5 sit-ups or something like that.
Yeah, I did that for Sekiro push-ups.
And then the last one.
I got real good at that game.
But not before he got an 8-pack, boys and girls.
Yes. 12.
Guys, I'm really sorry to derail this. I got a text message just now from an unknown number, and it just said, Honey Bear. And I just said, huh? And they said, sorry, wrong number. Like, way to just go fucking all out, not knowing if you have the right number. Just not hey, just dropping a straight up pet name. Gotta love it. I apologize, Larry. I cut
nice
you
pet
off.
name.
It's all good. It's all good. The last strange quirk, this is pretty weird, I think. Any game where you like have decisions that you can make, so like Skyrim, Oblivion, RPGs, I do everything in my power to like be a good person in those games. And then once I beat them, I go and I do every evil thing imaginable. The opposite of a redemption story arc. Yeah.
I feel like it's more normal for people their first playthrough to do it all nicey nice. Because you usually get the better ending. And then just go all out like black hat. That's what I did with Red Dead. I've just been killing every single person I see.
In Oblivion, I bought the house and Anchor with the secret passage in the basement. Oh man, I shouldn't have started this story. I regret that I'm going to finish this story.
Something's going on over there in Luke's.
I'm sorry. I need to flip my phone over. The person just texted me again without me responding and said, hold on. And said, I hit wrong number. I'm super sorry.
You got to keep up a friendship with this person.
I've tried that before. It doesn't work, guys. It just doesn't work.
So in Oblivion, I bought this house in Anchor that has a secret passage in the basement, and I would like lure the villagers into that secret passage and murder them. And I just had this pile of villagers.
That's some serial killer ass shit.
Yeah. Next time I play through Man from Medan, I'm just try my best to get everybody killed as fast as I can. Really excited to see how fast you can do it.
Yeah. Probably not real weird. I'm a big podcast listener when I play games, like especially sports games and stuff, and I tend to like to listen to podcasts related to the game I'm playing. So if I'm playing a football game, I'm gonna listen to, football podcast, basketball. If I'm like loot grinding in a game, I'll listen to like true crime podcasts, things like that, real murdery shit. I have a lot
when you're playing Overwatch, you listen to like podcasts on the Chinese government.
No, I listen to tiny parts of my soul screaming out in pain. Because either dumbass decision I'm making or dumbass teammates that I have. So
somehow it's always the latter.
Yeah, exactly. It's never my fault. I belong in top 500. I have a lot of really weird quirks in like sports games where I'm just really anal about things being as accurate as possible. So like I'll sit on Madden with my sliders and game time stuff and then compare my stats at the end to like real life averages. Like, hey, did I run the average amount of plays that an NFL game would average? Like after a season, did my quarterbacks have the average amount of completion rates? And if they're not, I'll like tweak the sliders back again and stuff like that. So I'm really quirky about that. Same thing with like roster movement. There are guys who we had a league in college, a bunch of guys on my hall played, and I just couldn't do it. It drove me up the wall because nobody liked to play like I did. I like trades to be like, there's not a ton of trades in the NFL. There's probably 5 or 6 every year. And there were guys in the league like trading half their roster, and I'm like, this isn't realistic. Like, and I tried to make rules, and I think I just drove everybody away. So I'm just really, really particular about that sort of stuff. And I used to, this was way back in the day, like in my college days, I used to buy those gallon jugs of Hawaiian Punch and just drink straight Hawaiian Punch while I was playing video games. I stopped that pretty quickly because I don't really want to get diabetes. So
I used to just drink straight eggnog in the holiday season while gaming.
Oh gosh, they've got almond eggnog at my grocery store right now. I really wanted to pick some up, but I'm like, it's October. I need to chill.
Man, I had an incredible metabolism and I miss it so much.
All right, so that was just a little light topic here on a light news week. I'm sure that something crazy will break tomorrow and we'll be disappointed we didn't.
Optic Nerve says same, I assume, about the incredible metabolism.
Yeah. I never had that. I maybe through middle school, and then it ended. But all right, guys. Well, let's wrap up with our final segment, our newest segment, the weird news of the week. Larry, let's kick it over to you. What is your weird news of the week?
So people have probably seen this, and it may not have struck you. Story.
Sorry.
Initially,
press the wrong button. Go ahead. Say that again.
People may have seen this, and it may not have struck you as a weird news story, but it struck me as a weird news story that U.S. Congress members sent a letter to Blizzard over concern for recent actions. So in light of all the stuff revolving around Hong Kong, particularly their temporary suspension of Blitzchung and the taking of his earnings, United States Senators Ron Wyden, Marco Rubio, Representatives Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Mike Gallagher, and Tom Malinowski signed a joint letter addressed to Robert Kotick specifically regarding Blizzard's recent actions towards Blitzchung. And just I just think it's hilarious. If you had told me 5 years ago that at some point a Blizzard game, the creators of World of Warcraft, would be at the center of international politics, being condemned with bipartisan support, I would have never believed. In today's
political climate,
that's the craziest thing. Blizzard,
Marco Rubio and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
This is the only thing they've ever agreed on in the history of the world. Somehow Blizzard has brought them together.
Well, this and there was a law on lobbyists that AOC and Ted Cruz got together on. like a few months ago. But these are the only two things I've seen bring any kind of unity within politics.
So Blizzard's doing something right.
This is the new Q theory. Blizzard is actually working and looking like the bad guy to bring unity back to American politics.
Hey, we all need to hate somebody, right?
It's true. Every story needs
like
a villain.
At the end of The Dark Knight, when Batman decided to look like the villain for the greater good.
They're not the hero we deserve or the one we want.
Or the one we need.
Really. Or any hero at all.
So it's not a big story. It's not a complicated story. I just found it hilarious.
All right, guys. Well, let's get out of here. Let's wrap this show up. Let's see. What are we at? We're about the same length as we normally have been. We did a good job of filling the show out. Who are you? Where can people find you? What are you going to be tweeting about this week, Larry? Let's start with you.
First off, Optic Nerve says, also, I just want to clear everybody new. Hello, it's the artist formerly known as Circle Hunter. All right. Anyway, I'm Larry. You can find me on Twitter at Still in Flux. And it's still politics, my dude. So follow at your own risk. It is very political, and until this current political fiasco is over, you can just expect that on my Twitter feed.
All right, Oddsworth.
I'm Cody. You can find me on Twitter at ProElectioneer. Probably find me retweeting Joker memes, because I've been getting a kick out of those. And then also probably tweeting about Outer Worlds, because I will be getting that on Friday. And I'm super pumped to create the dumbest character possible, because that is a legit way to play that game, apparently.
I'm Luke Croft. You can find me on Twitter at Luke PvA. And I'll probably just be tweeting about so I'm helping my dad this weekend. He's got this shed that the floor fell out of. And so he's got to have a new place to like put all of his tools and stuff. So he's enclosing underneath his deck. He's got like a stilted deck. And so he's closing that in to make his new shed. And he's called me, my brother-in-law, and my two brother-in-laws and me to come help him. And my dad just thinks I'm a fucking moron when it comes to fixing anything. So I'll probably just be tweeting about all the jobs that he's giving me to make me feel like I'm being useful. So that should be pretty entertaining.
Hold these boards, son.
I'm like, Dad, why am I at the end of the driveway when you guys are 150 feet away?
Stop playing Switch, son.
Dad, why did you invite me to this?
I'll just roll the whole TV over there. Oh, man. All right, guys, this has been PvA Radio. As always, we do this every single week over here on twitch.tv/PvA Radio. Come watch it live Wednesdays, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Each of us bringing one of the biggest gaming news stories of the week to the table, having an in-depth discussion about it. It's a collaborative, it's an audio, it's a feature, and it's an article. All rolled in one, guys. And Larry, what do we want people to do with CAFA?
We want you to write your representatives and try to get 5 bipartisan representatives to agree that
for its use of the word.
Either way, fame or infamy, I'll take either one.
That's right. No such thing as bad press.
And also spam that emote in the chat.
Oh, if you can't catch us live, catch us the very next day on youtube.com/PvA Radio or podcast services, including Luminary, where, yes, we are on there alongside Conan O'Brien. We're going to get out of here, though, guys. Thanks for the love. Till next time, we love you. Goodbye.
Why, that's the second biggest monkey head I've ever seen.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee.
The definition of insanity.
Would you like me to go on shortwave radio?